Loving bespectacled sloth Joe Pera comes to YouTube for his first full-length comedy special. This is something his fans, myself included, have been excited about for a long time. After a string of cult hits including Joe Pera Talks You to Sleep, Joe Pera Talks With You, and his podcast, Drifting Off with Joe Pera. Pera has become an unexpected comedy icon. He may lack the smack of more conventional comedians, but Pera's soothing delivery, poetic word choice, and ability to weave the beauty of the everyday into his material has made him a calm presence in a bombastic scene.
Years later, when the kids have grown up and moved out, Sarah will look at that photo of 6 sleeping legs covered by a single blanket and smile.
I did wonder how Pera would translate his sensibilities to a full special, and if he might come off a little one note. A lot of the fun of watching Pera is when he catches the audience off guard, using his anonymity to subvert their expectations.
Hello.
How would he fare without the sheer novelty of his persona and delivery? The result, I'm delighted to say, is something highly satisfying with a couple blunders along the way. The opening moments established the tone of the special. The camera, hanging bird's eye above Pera, moves from his beautiful comb-over to a sea of adoring fans. The first line of the special,
How about this door?
took me completely off guard. It's a riff that feels surprising, loose, and just a little bit cheeky. It was even more of a surprise that the hero of the special is Pera's crowd work. Pera is fast, agile, and surprisingly brutal with the audience. The first response he gets from an audience member aligns with the slightly mawkish tone you'd think Pera would embrace.
Because he's never been so lucky to get a full pita chip from a human being like Joe Pera.
Instead, he responds,
You know that when this goes online, the YouTubers are gonna really respond cringe.
It's a brilliant tone setter and offsets the image Pera's audience might have of him going into the special. Despite appearances, this isn't a church quiz, and while there are moments of earnest sentiment, there's also a lot of spicy spice. Pera clearly loves inhabiting his rural old man persona, but in crowd work there is a desire for something mischievous and youthful. It makes me wonder how Pera will continue playing with his persona moving forward, and whether he would consider creating something more fast and loose. Maybe even a crowd work special.
Unfortunately, deep down, it's okay, don't sweat it, we'll reset it. Okay. All good? Okay. Don't feel bad, you just ruined my entire life.
The crowd, by the way, are fantastic, equal parts smitten and surprised. They cheer through digressions and howl through Pera's trademark pauses. As a viewer, I felt connected to proceedings. The cameras are well placed, the recording crisp, and Pera's audio mixed well with the audience. The editing is slow and considered, and the darkened hues of the venue and wooden floor are a perfect setting for Pera's musings. It's like sinking into an old leather armchair. It's easy to forget how quietly subversive Pera is. In his opening announcement, he says his favorite food is rolls, a word with no hard consonants and no punch that makes for a hilarious anticlimax. A later joke about refilling ice cube trays his housemates have left empty results in Pera making the loving acknowledgement that come Monday there will be cubes for my boys.
Opening my freezer door to get an ice for an ice water, I saw that all 4 trays were empty. So what did I do? I filled them up. Because come Monday morning, there's gonna be cubes for my boys.
Most comedians would use this premise to launch into a hot-headed rant, creating laughs from how this minor irritation has imploded their whole universe. Think Billy Connolly or Bill Burr. What does Pera do? He takes on the zen of a Buddhist monk. It's such an amazing anticlimax. He literally cements the punchline by doing it again with 0 changes.
Cubes for my boys.
Casual viewers expecting something more conventional might be bored or even bewildered by these quietly mundane punchlines. For Pera's fans, they're gleeful misdirections that laugh in the face of comedic convention. There is no point stealing Pera's punchlines because no one but Pera could make them work. A truly original comedic voice. Pera's delivery has never been better. His jokes move slowly, but the punchlines often hit with devastating effect. Riffs about looking like Jeffrey Dahmer and a young widower are dark, unexpected twists of the knife that play in fantastic contrast to the unassuming librarian Pera looks like. It's reminiscent of being approached by some friendly-looking sloth, bending down to pick it up and realizing it strapped a bunch of dynamite to its stomach. Where the show stumbles is in the pre-mentioned battle between Pera's old man persona and the 35-year-old New Yorker playing him. Whereas, say, Emo Phillips is always in character, Pera quite often breaks, winking at the audience with a self-aware comment. Saying he's going to guzzle a bottle of water like a TikTok teen is an amusing surprise. But other moments come at the cost of a cohesive persona. Reading a column he's written on dating advice, he ventures into pretty blue sexual material.
And why am I going around on dates telling the truth, looking for a meaningful relationship? I should be trying to fuck. Just hitting it from the back. You know, real nasty like. I can make you come, and my lawyer Bob Reinhardt will put that in writing.
Despite providing shock factor and being well constructed, it feels tonally at odds with the rest of the show. James Acaster in Cold Lasagna also does this, describing in graphic detail the top of the T, but then addresses the filthiness of the bit and integrates it seamlessly back into the flow of the show.
Oh, baby. You dirty top of the T, you. So dirty.
So long, Crizzos.
Pera doesn't do this. Moments later, he tries to click back into his traditional persona, describing losing his virginity where a shortcut becomes a long cut, but it's jarring to slot back into old school euphemisms after such graphic material. The bit is also too long. Pera reads from the column for nearly 10 minutes. You can feel the audience start to disengage. In an act of meta self-preservation, the special cuts to shots of the stage manager adjusting his hair to give you something to laugh at. It's also the only time where obvious comedic techniques rear their head, repetitions of Bob Reinhardt compensating for a lack of substance. Call me a prude, but I personally would have enjoyed something more surreal or philosophical. Perhaps Pera puts himself in a position where he has to use dirty talk, but all he could come up with is soft innuendo. Talking about the space station moments prior, Pera considers the unending beauty and horror of the cosmos. He could have embraced these feelings wholeheartedly, employing a lighting change or a music cue, perhaps a projected image of space a la his Stephen Hawking riff in Joe Pera Talks You to Sleep. Pera can also draw out bits too long. The third repetition of What Do You Think Happened following the Squirrel Peter Chip bit is a smidge self-indulgent. He spends too much time reading from pieces of paper. Although I don't want him to prowl the stage like Chris Rock, Pera should trust his comedic sensibilities, ditch the paper, and engage with the crowd more earnestly. Overall, these are quibbles. It doesn't take long for the show to get back on track with one of Pera's funniest lines.
I offered to walk Bonnie Morrison home from the barn dance. I was very nervous, but it was a beautiful night, so I suggested we take a shortcut home through a cornfield, which turned into a long cut, if you know what I mean. The next day, I was shipped off to World War II.
This joke gleefully plays with the image the audience has of him as some old-timey man that has somehow survived to the present day. As if Pera was born in 1914, stumbled across Doctor Who mid-mission and stole his TARDIS, and arrived on stage to perform. He would make such a great guest in Doctor Who. Maybe he could be Doctor Who. It's slyly surreal, the kind of misdirect Pera should employ more often. The final third of the special delivers everything you could possibly want. Set up as new material for Joe Pera Talks You to Sleep, Pera welcomes composer Ryan Dan. Ryan creates a soundscape throbbing with mellow life. I really like the symmetry of the two of them on opposite sides of the stage. Pera, with his comically large old-timey book like he's the grandfather in The Princess Bride, Ryan calibrating his machinery. There's also a lot of space in the edits. The transitions move from straight cuts to fades. We see Pera sitting down and setting up the mic. Most specials would edit these out to make things snappy, but these silent spaces create a flow as we lean into the final part of the show. Some people just sound better with music, and Pera's lispy monotone, coupled with the instrumental, achieves a soft transcendence rarely seen in comedy. Pera walks us through a couple struggling to sleep on a muggy summer's night. It's where all of his strengths coalesce. The audience interactions are brilliant, his punchlines are balanced between abrupt, poetic, and totally left field. Yubi being a benevolent version of the Babadook took me totally off guard. Pera walks us through the minutiae of everyday actions with such startling simplicity that they feel like odes to life itself. He reminds me of Studio Ghibli animators who spend months trying to capture a simple action with total accuracy. In Pera's hands, potentially twee sentiments become steeped with feeling. It never feels like Pera is trying to relay some corny truth, like he's reading off a Hallmark card. He's searching for something deeper, and the moments of humor he creates come from capturing the unvarnished beauty of a regular life.
That's what my grandparents used to do. Same as they would have done in the living room. They would sit outside and not talk. Maybe that's the key. Just have 5 kids and work your body to arthritis so that you can be completely content sitting still together.
Compared to other comics, Pera feels like taking off a thick pair of leather shoes that you've been wearing all day and putting your feet in cold grass. The show's final misdirect, where Pera cuts out of a dream to a bedroom with your partner facing you on their pillow, was so vivid and took me so off guard that I just started crying. The music quietly swells like a wave pressing the shoreline. It shows Pera using his talent for misdirection, not to create laughter, but emotion. Describing air conditioners humming in unison on a hot evening, Pera's closing metaphor is the reason he's amassed such a following. It's tender and melancholy. Instead of a laugh, he ends on a quiet thought that we can take home. An ice cube to hold in our hands. Look, this special isn't perfect, it has its problems, but Pera's delivery, originality of premises, variety of punchlines, and the last section, you can't get this anywhere else in comedy. When the jokes are entangled with beauty and reality, it just gets to my core. It strikes a chord on my soul, and Pera melts me like a cube of butter in a hot pan. I'm giving a special 8 out of 10.
Nice. 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 Nice.